Hi, hey Russ here. Welcome back to my shop. Yeah, I can't do. Every time I go by, I gotta touch it and spin it. It's still fun. That's my OTB stropping wheel. I assume you saw the video on that one. Anyway, that thing is really very cool. So anyway, we're going to talk about my legacy and your legacy, if you have one. If you don't have one, don't despair. As soon as I get done with a couple of things about this, over the next couple of videos, I think then we'll be ready to start planning out what we want to do to build our own. So what you learn here is still going to be kind of important to you to understand how a legacy works. What we're going to talk about is the table height adjustment on the legacy. As it came from the factory, it had those stupid little rods here, fastened in here, and pushed against this cross member here to raise and lower the table on this. And that worked horribly. I just hated that thing. Every time I had to make an adjustment, you had to get the tool out to make the different adjustments on this thing. And so just to adjust the height took you a half hour, 15 minutes to a half hour, depending on what you were doing. And if you had to do tapers, that was even worse. So what I did was I did away with that rod here that went in between here. Okay? And the other thing I did was I took all these screws out that used the T-handle Allen wrench to loosen and tighten. So to adjust your bed, if you wanted to stay put, you had to tighten these down. I got rid of all those screws, and I took a piece of wood, 3/4 by 3/4, 7/8 by 7/8, something like that, 5 inches long. And I put a bolt, quarter inch bolt, 20 TPI, whatever the standard is for the course. That's the same on the machine. And I took and I epoxied in a thread bolt to cut the head off. I took a piece of milk carton, HDPE, and I put it here to help give me a little more resistance for tightening down, and I put a washer on there to spread the power as you tighten it down. So, and that's what I use now on all 6 of my posts. If you have the 900, you only have 4 posts instead of 6. If you have the 1800, then you have 8 posts instead of 6. So, but these posts are what you lock down on your machine once you set the height on it. You cranked up that knob, got it where you wanted, and then fought with it to get it level this way from side to side, and getting it all level and everything. It just took a little bit of time. It was a pain. So, and then you had to go back around with the tool, walk all the way around, tighten them all up, and then walk around, check it to make sure you were set. It was quite a time-consuming thing to change the level of your bed. It was a major operation, really. Well, now I'm here to tell you I can do the same exact thing now in less than a minute, from start to finish. Kid you not. And I'm going to show you. Stick around and you'll see. Originally, after 6 months, when I bought this machine in 2004, after 6 months of the nonsense of trying to calibrate this thing, I realized that this was a real major problem. And so, first thing I came up with as an idea was these stop blocks. And all they are is just a block of wood with a T bolt here, slides in the slot, and I put a slot here that is the right thickness for my 6-inch metal ruler to drop into. And I put these, I made 4 of them and put one on each corner. And what I was doing was I would set this in exactly the same distance on all 4 of them from the end, so that I was calibrated to the same spot here with my ruler. Then I would take my ruler, drop it in the slot, drop it down, and I could measure it. And I had 4 of these, and I put one on each corner, walked around and looked at it, and when I was sure I had everything set right, I would loosen and tighten the thing with my wrench, my tool, and one by one I would set them and get it just barely snug, and I'd pull here and that one would drop, and it was a pain, but finally you get it set up and everything would be set. Then you get ready to work and you find you're a ½ inch off. You need to go a ½ inch lower. That was a real pain. So now I do it totally different. I did away with those rods down here. The turn rod that went in between here and you crank the handle, I just took it out. And I now use a block in this area instead. So by having these knobs here, I don't need the tool anymore to loosen them up. And I don't have to tighten them down as tight as I used to have to. The way this works is actually pretty simple. Let me turn the light on here. And you can see down at that end, that blue stripe, that's a 2x4, just like this 2x4 here. And the way I set the height on this is actually quite simple. All I have to do is I lift up on it, and I take my block of wood, and I set it to whatever height I want my table to be. Let's say it's set at 3½ inches right now. Here. Well, now I know if this is 3½, I happen to know that that makes this exactly 1 3/4 inches from this surface to this surface. And because I use a 2x4, this is going to be flat this way, and I use the same spacer at both ends, I'm actually the same on all 4 corners. If I walked around and measure, I guarantee it, they'll all be 1 3/4 inches by using the block system. And now, if I want to change this height, let's say I need to drop this table height exactly 2 inches. Well, with the block system, it's pretty easy to do. I can lift it up. In this particular case, I changed the block from 3½ to 1½ inch. That's -2 inches. So now, my table height is exactly 3 3/4 inches. I just moved this table. It's still perfectly flat. If I go down there and change that one, also, now I have just the blue stripe all the way. That shows me that I'm at 1½ inch when you're looking at it from down there. That way you can see it. That's why I did that. So now I'm 1½ inch down there, 1½ inch here on my spacer blocks, and I'm 3 3/4 inches exactly on all 4 corners. This thing is flat and square instantly, and I changed it by changing the spacer blocks. If I need this to go up a little bit, let's say go up 3/4 inch, well then I just take my 2 3/4 inch spacers that I also have, and I raise it 3/4 inch. So now I take off 3/4 inch. This should be exactly 3 inches, which it is. So now I'm exactly 3 inches. So if I take the same size piece and put it in down there, I will be straight and flat instantly. That's how I change the height of my table, is my reference between these two here. And I set these blocks in here, and they're long enough to make this thing always be flat across this way. That assures me a true flat surface, parallel every time to my upper rail system. Now I know that my table is exactly where I want it. I can calculate where I want it and put it there instantly by dimensioning these blocks, whatever I need. The beauty of this is, even if I'm in the middle of a cut, let's say you're cutting something and you get it, and all of a sudden your Z-axis won't let you go. You need to go another 1/8 inch. And you go, oh man, now what do I do? Well, very simply, all you really have to do is, if you have room, take a 1/2 inch piece of plywood, lift it up, drop it in, go to the other end, do the same thing, and your height is now changed exactly 1/2 inch. So you got another 1/2 inch throw in there. If you're having troubles from this height again, and you say, uh-oh, I got to drop my height of my bed. I can't get done what I need to. I'm too high. I need to drop it down. Oh, probably 1/4 inch. Well, take the 3/4 inch out, put the 1/2 inch in, and I just moved this bed exactly 1/4 inch in height without anything. Do the same thing at that end. My bed is flat, level, and true throughout the whole length. That's how you change the height a Legacy. Quick and easy. Once you get your height set and you know you're comfortable, then you can go around by hand, turn these in until they make contact, and then go a quarter of a turn. And that's all you need on these, because the boards are holding the level. These just hold it in place. So it doesn't take much torque. You just tighten it down and go a quarter inch. That's all you do. And now, in just a couple of minutes here, I've got this all set up, ready to go. At this level. And if I want to change that, and of course I messed up. Let me take that out. Because I don't have a spacer down there, so let's loosen these up. And now I'm set and level. Didn't take much to take that out. So now I'm ready to mill. If I need to change this in the middle of the milling, I can do that if I have to. I can just add or take away from that 1.5 inches mathematically to change the height, and I'll be square and parallel still when I'm done. So that's how you change the height. So let's talk about the angle on this. Let's say you want to do a taper. So now you want this end higher than that end. So what you do is you have all your lockdowns loose, and you set this one to the height that you want, drop it down on there, go down to this end, and now I have a drop here to 1.5 inches. I can use my angle finder, set it to 0 up here, put it on here. If I know the degree angle, I can then just start shimming slowly at that end, or even use tapered shims and put them in there to get the final adjustment, to get this angle exactly where I want it, if I know the degree. If I'm doing it by measuring, again, I don't have to hold this thing or anything. It's being held in place just by gravity. And all I do is I put my pieces in down there, and I know that I got to drop it off, let's say 5/8 of an inch or whatever it's going to be, from here to here. So I measure my fence here, make note of it, I measure here, and I'm not quite the 5/8 of an inch. I need to go a little bit lower. So that means instead of 1.5 inches, I go to 1.25 inches, let's say down there. I could change that out to 1.25 inches. Then if I went too far, I can put 2 shims in there and slowly push them in to raise it up to get that exact place. Once I've done that, I snug all my pieces down nice and carefully, and I get my angle set real easy. And all I have to do is measure it here and here to make sure that my taper on my piece here is going to be exactly the way it's supposed to be, because I know I've dropped this table length down 5/8 of an inch exactly between here and here by measuring. I didn't have to do much of anything else for measuring, and that's how I got my angle set. So setting an angle is actually pretty easy to do too. You don't have to sit there and hold it and move things. You just set it up and slowly adjust the way you want it. So with that in mind, now you've seen the whole system work, and you've seen me how I do a taper. So at this point, let me snug these down real quick. Just enough. And it doesn't take much. You just make contact and go a quarter turn, because they're not holding it tight anymore. All they're doing is holding it from moving. The gravity is holding it in place. So now that I have these all tightened down, and now it's held in place, I can take, and let's time it for how long it takes me to change it. Right now I'm 3 3/4 inches here. Let's change it by 2 inches. Quick and easy. All I do is ready, set, go. Make note of the time of when I start it. And I just hand loosen them a turn or two. And once I get them all turned loose, I want to go 2 inches, so I go from 1.5 inches to 3.5 inches. And I'm going to go ahead and snug these two down because I know I can pivot there still. And I come back here and I flip this one up to 3.5 inches. Tighten these two down. Tighten my 2 center ones up. And I'm done. That was about 45 seconds. And I now have my new height set, locked down, ready to go. Less than a minute. It works really well. You should give it a try. Anyway, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If you have any comments, I always like to hear comments. Don't forget to like the video. And thank you for stopping by. And you know what? Make sure you come back because there's a lot more where this comes from. I gotta go. I'll talk to you later. Have a good day.